A pleasant good evening, viewers. PALI Online is coming your way once again. And guess what? Today we have a thought leader, somebody who has paid his dues to Mother Ghana, Africa, and humanity. He has made significant contributions ranging from academia as a lecturer. He's authored several books in the space of governance and leadership. He's mentored a lot of young people. He has also affected humanity in the diplomatic circles. Once upon a time, he was in Tanzania under the umbrella of the United Nations. He also did some UN work in the Republic of Liberia. Again, once upon a time, he co-founded one of Ghana's foremost leading think tanks, contributed to the process of shaping our democratic space. And that if we can say that 28 years of uninterrupted democratic governance never happened in the history of our country, this institution that he co-founded has played a very crucial role. Currently, he is the Chief Executive Officer, CEO of the John Kufuor Foundation. Viewers, the privilege is mine as I introduce my guest to the 4th edition of the Conversation to Reshape Africa and engagement with thought leaders. I have here Professor Baffour Agyeman-Duah.
Thank you very much, and it's my pleasure to be on this program.
Wow, I'm privileged meeting you and then also having the, I guess, opportunity to be the moderator for this conversation.
It's my pleasure.
So, Prof, how does your work as the CEO of Jack Foundation entails? Can you tell viewers a bit about your routine?
Yes, thank you. I guess I'm on my last leg in the long service to mankind.
That's right.
Because frankly, this is my post-retirement work.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, as you mentioned in the introduction,
that's right.
I had a long year teaching,
That's
long
right.
years teaching in academia.
That's right.
Fundamentally in the United States.
Wonderful.
For a dozen years.
Wow.
Then at the University of Ghana for 3 years.
Yes. In the international relations?
Correct, at the Legon Center for International. Exactly.
Wow.
And then after that, I got into civil society work.
That's right.
That's why you mentioned the founding of the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD, back in 1998.
Oh.
And rightly, we worked very hard to ensure smooth transition.
That's right.
From the first NDC under Gerald Rawlings.
That's right.
To the Kufuor NPP in
That's
2001.
Right. I think you have a book.
Yes, I have a book acknowledging and chronicling all these
events that
precisely. And then after that, I joined the United Nations, as you said, and worked in 2 countries. And I retired in the United Nations back in 2013.
Wow.
End of 2013.
Viewers, this is a senior citizen right here.
I am indeed. And when I came back from the UN tour, the former president invited me and requested that I help him to build this institution.
Foundation.
So that's the background to my present position.
Wow.
As the CEO of the John A. Kufuor Foundation.
Wonderful.
Which I've been doing since 2014.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. So, Prof, if viewers may want to know what is the strategic goal, what is the outlook for the Jack Foundation, what are you seeking to achieve?
Well, interesting question, very interesting, because this seems to tally in with your earlier remarks about leadership.
That's right.
What the former president told me when he invited me home to discuss this particular job was that all his years in public office, and you know, former President Kufuor spent almost his entire life in public service.
Even early 20s, he was city council.
Precisely, age 27, 28. And became a very young deputy minister of foreign affairs when he was like 29, 30 in the Busia government. And since then, he's been in public life.
That's right.
What he tells me is that for him, the weakest link in Africa's development is leadership.
Wow.
And that from his experience,
that's right,
leadership has been the gap that must be filled in the long chain of development in Africa.
That's remarkable.
So essentially, he told me, let's envision a program that will prepare young people for leadership. That was his exact words. These were his exact words. So then the challenge was on me to come back with a concept of how we do it. So from my own, I guess, limited experiences, I recall certain experiences I had when I lived abroad.
That's right, that's right.
And I'm pretty much aware of some well-known semi-academic youth programs like the Rhodes Scholarship in England, the Harvard Scholars Program in the United States, and many other things.
That's right.
So then we look at Ghana to determine if any of these things will fit our own environment.
Context.
Of course, none of them did.
Okay.
So what we decided then was to create, you may call it a hybrid.
Wow.
Because we look at all these other things and consider what is best for Ghana.
That's right.
So we've come up with this program we call Kufuor Scholars Program.
Yes, I think I've seen it a couple of the advertisements in the daily graphics and
correct.
Yeah, that's
So what this program does is to take young people in our tertiary institutions, both public and private universities, take them when they are entering their second level in the universities, second year. When they are admitted, they stay in our program for 3 years, concurrently with their own academic studies in their universities for 3 years.
Amazing.
And during that period, we expose them to so many activities that in our estimation will help to reshape their orientation, reshape their character, and make them believe first in themselves and the capabilities that they have to transform not only themselves, but more importantly, their communities, and by extension, their country. Because our concept of leadership is not just becoming a president of a country or a minister or anything of the sort. But we believe that in any role that you find yourself, be it a carpentry role,
you co-exhibit
seek to become a master carpenter. And by so doing, become a leader of the carpentry. Precisely. Farmers the same. So that's how we define leadership. It's not confined to any bureaucratic or political kinds of position. So that gives the students the opportunity to explore their potentials. Because we admit students with different backgrounds. Currently, we have 3 medical students. We have students in, of course, the arts, political sciences, psychology, the history. We have them from the physical sciences, biology, and all that. We have students from tech who are engineers. We have students from agricultural backgrounds. They are doing agricultural studies at UDS and Cape Coast. So we have them from...
Very diverse.
Very diverse.
And that's the flagship program.
Precisely. That's our flagship program. It's our own program. We fund it ourselves.
Wow. Amazing.
And since 2015, we've been keeping this program.
Wow, sustaining it for 5 years.
5 years and still going very strong.
Whoa.
We just admitted the latest batch of 30 students.
Wow,
in a nationally organized recruitment process.
Wonderful.
So that is our flagship program, and we are aiming to make these young people the beacons of the future of our country.
Wow.
In terms of leadership.
Wow.
In the various areas they may find themselves.
Prof, I'll come back on this question to build a case on this matter, because for instance, PALI has been thinking that if we are to expect different results, then in terms of leadership, it cannot be business as usual. So we think that this effort and initiative by His Excellency, the former president, and of course the foundation, to really groom or to influence the successive generation of leadership is the way to go. And I would really come back to that too. You know. But for let's take your take on 28 years of democratic practice. Looking at the successes, from where you said as a governance, you know, I think as for governance and leadership, it's in your DNA, when you even dream. From where you sit, practically, do you think that matching our successes, the hurdles, the gaps, have we fared well? Is it satisfactory? Is there more room? In fact, if we are to do an introspective analysis of 28 years of uninterrupted democracy, how will you rate
Our democracy?
our democracy?
Well, first of all, generally, I'm very pleased with the journey so far.
All right.
Because if you look back prior to 2000,
That's
or
right.
maybe 92, when we
Yes.
adopted the Fourth Republican Constitution,
Okay.
the country has suffered through instability
That's right.
with these military incursions
Interventions,
and
yeah.
all. And of course, even during our first republic, we had a great time
Yeah,
under Kwame Nkrumah,
exactly.
no doubt.
We started well.
But historically, we also know that towards the last few years of his rule, the country was not the same as he inherited.
There was some wahala.
Precisely. And that's the reality. So since then, the country was going back and forth. Unfortunately, 92, we had a Fourth Republican Constitution.
right.
And since, like you said, for 28 solid years,
Yeah,
we have sustained it
that's right.
and we've been building on it.
That's right.
So on that score, I think we can say we've done well. But having said that, I should also say that there are serious challenges that we need to manage.
That's right.
And I think, to a large extent, by not taking time to examine ourselves as a people, in terms of our history and our culture,
Okay.
and the fact that the country is like a tapestry,
Okay.
pieces that you sew together,
All right.
together. Okay?
A
In other
collective.
words, yes, we have a country consisting of different nationalities,
That is true.
forming a new nation we call Ghana,
That's right.
and we have to be able to accommodate all these various ethnicities.
Wonderful.
And I think we've done well, because so far there have been no serious
In
challenges.
terms of a tribal,
Exactly. Done well.
conflict and
But as I look to the future,
okay.
it seems to me, having concentrated so much power at the center of governance,
Okay.
that is to say, the national government,
That's right.
I think we have concentrated so much power at the center in the hands of the executive. Everything has been centralized to
Interesting.
the extent that today, people in villages still look up to the central government, to be more specific, to the president, to provide toilets in villages. That shouldn't be the case.
Oh.
I think we have to have a system that will empower people to a large extent determine their destiny in terms of their development. And that has been one of the drawbacks in the latest constitution that we have. I think we hurriedly put together our previous constitutions
That's
and
right.
stole a little bit from the West
Yeah.
and mix it up.
Infuse it.
Infuse it. That was wrong in retrospect.
Mm.
At the time we did it, I think everybody hailed it.
That's right.
Because that was going to give us a break from the previous. Exactly.
But for the benefit of hindsight.
Precisely. So it's about time we begin to take a serious look at this. For instance, it is not mandatory for any democracy to have a 4-year term for presidents.
Oh, really?
It's not mandatory. You see?
Interesting.
You see? If you know your staff, you know that in England,
Okay.
Britain, I would say UK,
Britain, yeah.
the UK,
Yeah.
there's no term limitation for the Prime Minister.
Okay.
He will be Prime Minister until the people vote him out.
Vote you, yeah. So, and Prof, I think they are practicing the parliamentary system.
Parliamentary system,
Yes.
but without constitution. Only democracy without a written constitution.
Written the constitution, yes.
You know that?
Yeah, they use the conventions. And,
Precisely. In France, it's 6 years, 7 years for
Okay.
a president.
Okay.
America, 4 years.
Okay.
See, all these things were decided within certain cultural and historical context.
Okay.
So what is the context for our
Our
deciding
situation
on 4 years?
4 years, yeah. That's true.
So it's
Especially, Prof, in the face of our national constraint in terms of the national kitty, you know,
The resources.
Yeah, the resources, and you ask yourself every 4 years,
Got to
you know,
spend
we can
millions to
spend
do that.
millions to run
Excellent.
elections, and I think the former President Kufuor is on record to have, for instance, said that if the nation can go on a conversation to look at the you know, he thinks that the 4 years probably too
But this is
small.
coming from me.
Yeah.
It's not the president's opinion. It's
Yes.
my own
And
from my
even-
own.
Yes, and even the good thing is that he did not even say it when he was in office.
When he was leaving.
When he was leaving, and that was also
Exactly.
remarkable.
Precisely.
So that he would not become like a
Self-serving.
beneficiary.
Like it's a self-serving
Benefactor,
kind of
yeah,
proposal.
yeah. Interesting. So, Prof, and so then, therefore, who should take such leadership in causing the sense of national awareness and consciousness on the need to, for instance, do a retrospective analysis to see what has worked, what has not worked so perfectly,
Yes.
and how do we fix it? Because I have oftentimes been a bit frustrated when people, right holders, duty bearers, sorry, are rather becoming advocates.
They cannot. Well, you know that
So who
for,
take
for
leadership?
advocacy, leadership in advocacy, certainly civil society.
That's right.
You mentioned
But if you have the power and you are still advocating,
the civil society doesn't have the power.
no, I'm saying
The
that
executive.
yes, the duty bearers.
Yes, they cannot advocate effectively.
Sometimes they find themselves in the advocacy trip, and you ask yourself,
Why would they?
why would they? So who should take leadership in?
That's why I'm saying, in terms of advocacy, it should be civil society.
Okay.
But you also need to have an enlightened executive leadership
Yeah.
to make it work.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. When the late Professor Mills, as president,
That's right.
proposed a review of the Constitution, he set up
Okay.
a Constitutional Review Committee
That's right.
that toured the whole nation
Yeah.
and came out with some very interesting proposals for reforms.
Okay.
But in the end, the government of Atta Mills
Is your white paper?
issued a white paper and selectively determine which one will be accepted and which will not be.
This white paper thing.
You know, so if you really want to hear the voices of the
Of
people,
people.
and the people have spoken, why do you
Temper with it.
tamper with it? But you see, that is where self-interest
Comes
takes
in.
Exactly.
Exactly. And Prof, this brings me to public opinion. And you as a governance person, of course, would, you know, does public opinion have its prominent way in our democracy? Because we know that, for instance, all of us cannot go to parliament.
That's right.
That is why the people's representative, you know, are there, but they are there on behalf of the people. And if a government is in power for some number of years or whatever duration that their tenure spells for them, it's supposed to take into consideration the views and the thinking of the government.
That's right.
How do you see it? How do we factor public opinion in a policy formulation and even decision taking? Do you see
One
that
of the
it's best?
one of the expected elements, very important element in democracy, is the role of public opinion.
That's right.
Which comes from advocacy.
That's right.
That's why in this country, despite our weaknesses, I think the think tanks, the public policy think tanks, are doing a marvelous job. Besides CD, we know Imani, IDEC, and now many others.
Yeah.
Because ordinary people going about their daily lives, will not have the presence of mind to advocate for these things.
Okay.
So these institutions, which are private NGOs,
That's right.
take the place of the larger public.
That's right.
To advocate such issues.
That's right.
So in terms of reforming the Constitution, I think it is these institutions that I mentioned and more that can lead advocacy for the change. But at the same time, you need a receptive government.
That's right.
A government that is also aware of the need for change.
Exactly.
The irony, though, is that once you're in government, you tend to take what you inherited to be beneficial.
That's right.
And therefore, oftentimes, you won't be willing to let go of what you inherited.
Exactly.
It's only when they are out of power that they realize that we should have made these changes.
That's true.
You see, so it is a job of civil society then to continuously advocate for changes to occur in our system.
Because even during the lockdown, for instance, simple enforcement of social distancing in market space, we were looking to the central government to enforce it.
Yes.
So that the local government structures could not simply enforce the protocols in the marketplace.
I think what you're saying is that people depend on government so much that for things that they can do for themselves, they look up to government to do for them.
That's right.
That's exactly the problem. And when I mention in jest, but which is the reality, that up to today, people in certain rural communities, when visited by a president of the republic, among the appeals to the president will be to appeal to the president to please provide toilets. In our days, as young people, toilets were provided by the community through communal work. Communal work. And every Saturday, kids were gathered to these places to clean them up. When the community was getting witty around, people mobilized and took a day off to weed around their communities.
That's right.
These were things people did for themselves. So the question is, what changed? Why is it that all of a sudden, if you to have a common toilet in your village, you wait and wait for government to provide, and if the government has not provided, then you revert to what we call public defecation. It is wrong. And I think it's going on because our governments have arrogated to themselves so much power and have given so much expectation to our people that people just sit by and look up to the government and provide the basic essentials of life.
That's true.
And that is one of the defects in our current democratic
And Prof, let me follow up with this. What is your take on the chief executive of Ghana Incorporated, you may want to call it that way, or the president, always have to go and commission projects from classrooms, from name it, simple social amenities in the community. Sometimes it has to wait for months because the president's schedule hasn't taken into consideration, Do you think there should be a paradigm shift?
Of course, obviously. There's no need. In fact, there was a time certain projects were commissioned by DCs and regional ministers or regional commissioners at the time and now we call them what, regional ministers?
Yeah, regional ministers.
All those things we don't hear anymore. So if you're a DC or regional minister, we don't know what you do.
Wow.
It's only when the president comes to your area to commission a classroom, building, that we see you standing by the president.
Oh my goodness.
And it's all due to what I've been talking about so far.
So
the
much power
centralization of
concentrated.
power. And also the kinds of democracy we are pursuing, where governments count their successes in terms of numbers of toilets they built, in terms of a classroom they built, rural roads they've constructed, on and on and on and on.
So, Prof, I don't know to what extent would you agree or disagree, but there is a segment of our people who think that when it comes to strict application of the principle of the rule of law, it's a joke in our country. Some even suggest that it is a mere suggestion. And their evidence is that once a big man is involved in, let's say, a road traffic offense, or even a relative of a big man is caught crossing the red light, my old grandlady would say foolish case. Because
whereas in most instances,
okay,
people in powerful places use their position to subvert the rule of law.
The rule of law.
If you're a big man in office and I call you, Mr. So-and-so, the policeman has stopped me, and you call the police and say, oh, this is my boy, this is my nephew.
Yes,
then again, you are using your power, your authority to undermine the rule of law. So it's a complex issue, but
That's
I think we need to take into account our cultural context as well as how people in authority, because of the excessive powers you've given to them, also abuse and undermine the rule of law by wrongful use of their power.
Whoa.
You see, in terms of those who are lining up to be president, it's a good question you ask, whether all of them are mindful of the kind of office they are seeking to hold. Of course, there are some serious, very serious contenders, but many others I think are not serious. And I think it's about time we tighten the qualification requirements to kind of slim down the numbers, because we cannot afford to be having 17, 12 people.
This is really ridiculous.
Yeah. And I think people should also understand that it's not becoming a president that you can contribute to the
that is another issue
of the country. I think there are so many ways one can
you can influence your space.
Exactly. So that is something we all need to learn. In terms of the legislators, you know, and let me put this in a larger context, my own critical appraisal of our democracy.
Okay.
I think some people are taking political office as a career that they look for. They want to build their whole life
around politics.
Around politics. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
People do that.
Yes,
so I'm not faulting them. But I think it's becoming excessive. Especially for young people who right after university, who no experience behind them, never bought a car, never built a house, never married and all, and rushing into politics to become ministers or deputy ministers or whatever. I think that we need to check.
Really check.
Because that is one venerable way to be corrupted.
That's right.
This whole issue of corruption comes partly from that. Because if you haven't built your own personal wealth, and you get into politics with all the expectations of the citizens, then you are compelled by such circumstances to be corrupt in order to satisfy
the demands.
So that's one way. Also, I think, and it's something we all need to perhaps seriously examine. You see, in many countries, so-called advanced countries, of course there are people who want to be politicians, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's one way to serve your country. But there are many other ways that we are not exploring.
That's right. Okay.
And it's all because we seem to have concentrated three key things that every human being desires in politics. We have concentrated them into politics.
Whoa.
One, think of wealth. In Ghana, it seems like the shortest cut to be wealthy is to be a politician.
Get into politics.
Influence.
Okay.
Okay? And the third factor, I think, wealth, influence, and what? And social status. Recognition.
The level change.
Precisely. Influence to have power.
That's right.
So again, no, irrespective of what you take as a career, there should be opportunities for you to progress.
That's right.
But right now, it's so much limited in terms of individuals progressing without going through. Even to get to be a good business person in Ghana, understand that you have to go through
the politician.
But the politicians may have created systems and regulations and rules that you need to circumvent, and you can only do that by getting a politician as a partner.
Yeah. So if you have a conversation with a young person, that's the narrative he or she would also give the frustrations.
Yeah. So coming back to role models, I think we need to try to create multiple role models. Teachers can be real role models.
That's
One
right.
of my best role models was my elementary school teacher.
Whoa.
Yes, he influenced me in many ways.
Wow.
At the university level, I got a role model, a teacher, a professor who was really not just teaching, but loving you to do well.
Wow.
You see? And in my own adult life, there are people I've admired.
And look up to.
You
know.
And that's what we need to do for the young people.
That's right.
So in the program that I run at the foundation, we have mentors.
That's right.
All our scholars are attached to mentors.
Wow.
You see? So again, politicians can be good role models if they put up better behavior than we have now.
In terms of ethics.
Ethics.
Yeah.
You know? So politicians could be role models.
That's right.
But I think presently, I'll be hard pressed to mention any of them as being proper role models, because there's a general impression out there.
That's right, that politicians are
even there are some very good
ones
in the no doubt, very excellent ones I admire.
That's true.
But overall, people might say, oh, politicians are not the best people.
Prof, then what is the missing link? Post-independent Ghana, some of us did not have the benefit to experience it, but at least for history. We had leaders that seemed, and I'm using my words carefully, more patriotic, nationalistic, and our own Nelson Mandela, and somebody who could have gone the second term. He said, I'm not going to overstay my welcome, and let me be that leader that creates space for other leaders to emerge. What happens to the virtues?
And that is part, again, to come back to what we're doing here at the foundation. That's part of it. Our quote-unquote indoctrination of the young people is for them to be nationalistic, patriotic. And if I should refer, people don't mention a champion, but people forget that a champion is the one who rewrote the national anthem that we sing today.
Really?
He is the one who introduced the national pledge that we recite today.
Wow.
You see, he is the one who said we should take the commanding heights of the economy. Ghanaians should.
Wow. These leaders have to be celebrated.
Well, people, for whatever reason, people have
don't even mention this.
Because he was a military ruler. Nobody wants military ruler. I'm not here to celebrate military politicians. But the truth is that there's something that we can learn from.
Yes, learn from.
So talking about patriotism, what can be more patriotic for us to know that we as a people have to take the commanding heights of our economy?
Yeah, it's so profound.
Profound.
And we are challenged even as in the 21st century.
Precisely. To do that. Nana Kufuor is talking about Ghana Beyond Aid. It's the same concept. For me, it's the same concept. Because beyond aid means that we will reduce our dependency to the minimum.
Yeah, exactly. And become self-reliant.
Precisely. What did the champion preach? Self-reliance.
Yeah, that's true.
Preaching feed yourself.
Feed yourself.
Grow your own food and eat your own food.
People were having gardens in their backyard.
Thank you very much. Here in Accra, everywhere. First of all, as a nation, there are certain things we don't take seriously.
That is the word.
And it begins with lack of record keeping.
Okay.
That will serve as a source of reference.
Okay.
As a guide.
That's
also.
right. Record keeping.
the country, if you go to our national archives, you may weep if you are somebody who loves archives. If I want to say for the 19 years that Jerry Rawlings ruled the country, I want to examine his notes, his letters, his correspondence to be able to determine how, as a leader, he related to Burkina Faso or Russia.
That's right.
I can bet you I can't find it.
My goodness.
Oh yeah.
Even at that top level.
At that level.
Whoa.
Because we are poor at record keeping. Now it's interesting that we are getting data on fatalities because there's a road safety commission that has started keeping data. Back 20 years ago, 2000, I was in Zimbabwe.
Then?
Yes, I went for the elections with the Commonwealth group.
Okay.
And I visited most places. And every village I went with the police station, there was a board in the reception area where they indicate crimes recorded in that locality.
Oh, really?
Every month. I saw with my own eyes.
Zimbabwe?
Zimbabwe, the year 2000, May, I was there. May 2000.
This is 20 years down the line.
Zimbabwe, in every police station, publicly displayed as you enter the support.
That is how it should be.
Crime, robberies, road fatalities, thievery, what they all listed with the figures. That was 20 years ago.
Whoa.
When I saw that, I was thinking about my own beloved
your backyard.
And as I speak today, if you go to any police station to ask how many people have been shot dead in your area, I'm sure they will look at you like they are dropping from the Mars.
Data.
You see. So we have not been very good as a people, as a nation, with data, statistics, and therefore our information is always scarce to get by. We don't get accurate information. That's why most of our media have been more speculative rather substantive in their reporting. You see. And they are quick to forget that something happened last year.
So they could then
make a linkage for people to know that, in fact, this thing has been recurrent. We report in isolation. But I remember a famous word said by Martin Luther King many years ago in one of the books I read. He says, facts by themselves are meaningless.
Okay.
The fact that somebody has died today, if you hear that, it's meaningless.
Okay.
But the interlinkages of facts is what gives meaning.
That's profound.
So you get one fact.
That's right.
You link it to another fact. Link it to another fact.
Right.
And you begin to get a picture.
A true picture. An appreciation.
Thank you.
Of the situation.
So if I can dramatize that, you hear that somebody is hit by a car on the road.
Okay.
Fine. Oh, sorry. You walk away. It doesn't hit you.
That's right.
As you move forward, and you hear that, oh, that person who was hit is say a minister or a DC.
Okay.
You will stand and pause and, oh, the minister.
But that's added information.
Yeah, added information, other fact. You may still move on. But if you get a third fact that that minister is your father's brother or friend, imagine what you will
do.
You see?
Wow. You become more emotional.
Wow. You become affected. Wow. As an individual,
wow.
If your life is without hope,
whoa,
you're going to lose everything.
Wonderful.
So in that respect, politicians do a good job
of sacking
exams.
Okay.
Jesse Jackson of old in the US used to shout, keep hope alive.
Wow.
Keep hope alive.
Wow.
Because truly, the reason why I believe in keeping hope alive is that we are imbued by our Creator with that element of hope. But without hope, so many things we cannot do. Hope is what keeps you going even when you are falling down.
That's right.
So hope is crucial. But there is what you may call a reasonable hope.
Reasonable hope.
Which means that you are taking steps towards achieving.
That is it. That is it.
But you cannot just fold your arms
that is it.
And say, yeah, hope. Keep hope alive.
Where are thou?
Where are thou? Hope will never come. So expression of hope should go hand in hand with practical things that you are taking, the steps that you are taking to actualize the hope. So in that respect, when politicians call on us to be hopeful, then we expect that they have policies and programs that is helping to actualize that hope.
Wow.
And I think by and large, all governments try to do that.
Something.
They provide schools, roads, they do certain things, by and large. But I think oftentimes they miss the bigger things.
That's right.
By misdirecting or misappropriating exactly the priorities. But I don't begrudge them because, you know, if you lead a country like Ghana, where toilets are still
an aspiration
of a community, then you can imagine what a president of this country
will be thinking of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What are the priorities? The toilets or the roads or the schools or the clinics or the housing or the what?
It's really, really difficult, at that level.
Precisely. They are appointed and they sit and wait, afraid to do anything because it could be wrong, he could be fired.
Penalized.
So they sit down and wait for instructions. No leader, that is sweeping. So let's say few leaders take the initiative, and I can point to a few. Look at the STC.
Yes.
State Transport Corporation.
That's right.
It died.
Yeah.
Towards the last few years of President Mahama. I know the gentleman, I've forgotten his name.
Dr. Samuel Nyama-Donko.
Good guy.
Yeah, good guy. Fantastic.
He transformed the STC, and my friend Akumia took over, and it's ongoing.
Also, yeah.
I don't think Mahama directly instructed what is it?
Micromanage.
Yeah, that buy this, Nyama, do this. No,
he doesn't have that time.
Exactly. But unfortunately, most of our leaders in various positions wait for instructions from Accra. That's the culture, and that's what is killing us. Because I can bet you, in most of our cities and communities, districts, there could be interesting initiatives
coming up
to change these places. But because of the structure we have, that a president has to appoint a DCE who has to be directly responsible to him, that DC will not move a stone without clearance
from the either the regional minister or the local government.
So how do you expect initiative at the local level? So I have serious reservations about the way our constitution has become an obstacle in the development of Ghana.
Our country is the place of legacy in leadership. Why is legacy so important, especially to transformational leaders, including J. Kufuor?
Well, first of all, this foundation is going to be part of the president's legacy, what he leaves behind.
That's right.
So we are seeking to make this foundation to live perpetually.
Wow.
That's our
transcend generations.
Exactly.
Wow.
I think every leader, and here I'm not talking of presidents, don't make the mistake.
Yes.
Bishops,
corporate leaders,
carpenters, whatever, drivers. Every leader should seek to leave something behind for which he or she will be remembered for.
Wow.
That's legacy. Some of the things you leave behind may be permanent, others may be just temporal. But then people, they are temporal. It passes away with that, but people will always remember. Those who knew you will also remember you.
Oh, yeah.
And say, oh, this man.
Kufuor Bass.
Kufuor Garo.
He's gone by years.
Yeah, exactly. You know. So I think my last word here is that if you're a leader and you do not seek to leave a legacy, then I think you have shortchanged yourself.
Wow.
You should be able to leave something behind for people to recall your presence as a leader with delight. Wow. Not to remember you with tears, but with delight that, oh, this man lived his life. And for him, that's why we're here. That for me is the best legacy.
Profound. And for me, I will have to even listen to this interview over and over and over, and just to be able to drive some wisdom from my guest, Professor Baffour Agyeman-Duah. He is our guest. He's the Chief Executive Officer of JAC Foundation, John Ejekun Kufuor Foundation, a vehicle to consolidate the legacy of the woman. And he, in Ghana, we know him as a gentle giant of our politics. Pleasant evening. This is PALI Online. My name is Paa-Kumi Frank. who happens to be the Chief of Party for PALI Initiatives.